Hello, everybody.
Hello.
What's
Hey
up?
there.
Every time.
What's up?
It's hello. Oh. So,
Welcome
big,
to another night
big,
with the Bearded Brothers podcast.
another fun episode.
Today, the paranormal.
What about it?
I said today. Give me just a second, guys.
Okay.
All right.
And for those of you who do not know, we actually have a pretty special guest coming on here tonight. It's the one and only Kristy Summers. Or Summer, I believe. Only there's an S. Kristy Sumner is her name.
Yep.
She's from the Soul Sisters Paranormal.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Awesome.
And she's been to a lot of places, so
Oh, that's
I'm
for
sure
sure.
we can. I'm sure we can get some good stuff from her.
She's been to Florida, North Carolina, here in Ohio, PA.
All over.
Yeah. Tennessee. Texas.
All over the place.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get on our Facebook page too to see if I can watch it while I'm here. I sure can. All right, so yeah, I mean, whenever you guys want, we can I can add her to the. I'm pretty sure we can add people to the call.
Yeah, whenever.
And then let's see if we're able to first.
Yep.
Find her.
Someone over there, doing a podcast on a hurricane right now.
That would be
He's-
that would be me.
So over there, freaking Hurricane Katrina over there.
Don't you worry about that hurricane that's going on over there, all right? Don't freaking worry about that.
Talk about my AC. You're freaking doing it in a goddamn hurricane.
Can you still hear? Can you still hear the hurricane? Let me see if I
Nope,
can.
I can just hear the rain.
All right, as long as that's all you can hear, then we're good. All right, I'm gonna invite her, and then I gotta grab my drink, and then I'm coming right back on. Be right back.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we will be here.
All right, it's calling.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Oh, another day in paradise.
Doing well, thank you very much. Thanks for being a guest tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we all have some pretty good questions to ask you. I mean, whatever you're comfortable, just let us know.
Sure, sure, absolutely. I'm open to anything. There is a little bit of a feedback, or an echo. How would I get rid of that?
I am not too positive on that one.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me see if I can figure it out. Can y'all still hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I think that did it.
Perfect. Now, I know it says, that in 2020, that it just primarily became you and your twin sister, Jenny.
Correct. Yeah. So we started in 2013 as a group of 5 females,
Mhm.
and then just due to life circumstances and COVID and all of that, Jenny and I became the primary investigators.
Okay. Now, me personally, I kind of want to know, what got you into the paranormal world? Did something happen to you at a young age, or you just always
No.
been interested in it?
We've always had an interest in the paranormal. My sisters and I, we all come from a research-minded background. And so we always said to ourselves, if we had the opportunity to go on a paranormal investigation, we would jump at that opportunity. And so that really presented itself in 2013 when we were visiting Moundsville, West Virginia, which is where the West Virginia State Penitentiary is located.
Mm.
And so we had a friend of the family that sat on the board of that facility. And he said, when you're here doing your girls' trip, why don't you take a night and stay the night in the penitentiary? So we jumped at that opportunity. And we took some digital cameras, some voice recorders, and really left that experience with some things that we couldn't explain. We were hearing footsteps. We were hearing men's voices when we knew that there was nobody else in that area. We were, we saw a few light apparitions, which we couldn't explain. And so after that, we really wanted to formalize, as best as we could, a professional paranormal group. And so we decided on Soul Sisters Paranormal as our name. And we really started going to these historic and reportedly haunted locations, really to tell the historical narrative of these locations, as well as document any unexplained evidence that we could.
Okay. So, like, with your first ever investigation, was it like something that was just exciting to you, or were you like really nervous about it? Like, were you freaking out?
No, we were excited. Again, it was one of those things that, I get to experience this with my sisters. So we were really excited about that. And, I won't lie, there are moments of trepidation when you go into these locations, and you have moments when you're startled. But for us, it really is about that sense of exploration at these locations to see if we can really delve into what is causing these reported hauntings. And the first thing we do is we go in, we try to debunk what could be causing the quote unquote hauntings. And then what we're left with is the unexplainable. And that really was kind of our mindset when we did the first investigation there at Moundsville. Obviously we'd heard the stories and the reports of the hauntings. And so we kind of set about trying to debunk first. And then, when you're an all-female team and you're capturing men's voices on voice recorders, and you've got these stairwells, these large metal stairwells where you're hearing footsteps, and you know that there's absolutely nobody on those stairwells. To us, that was pretty compelling.
Right, that's definitely something, because me and my brother Steve, we went out doing investigations ourselves for a little while,
Mhm.
and 9 times out of 10, you really just get really not much, maybe a couple voices on the voice recorder, but nothing that's too compelling, I guess.
Mhm.
But our last one, I'm just going to ahead and say it was a demonic spirit,
Oh, really?
and it just did not settle with me very well, and I haven't gone back since. So
Was it at a commercial location or a private residence?
it was a private residence, and
Okay.
it was like, I would say, like a block or two away from a graveyard.
Oh,
But
wow.
I'm
Okay.
not sure if that had a connection with it. But our friend at the time, when she was going to be moving into this house, and she wanted us to go over there and check it out because she was getting some uneasy feelings in the house.
Okay.
So we went over there, checked it out, and everything was normal at first. And then we start getting really uneasy, and we start hearing things like jump down in front of us, like hitting the floor really hard. Chandeliers moving, and we actually caught a couple photos, but
Oh, wow.
it was just one of those things where it's like that was too much.
Hmm. Yeah, and you do have those investigations, right, where you kind of need to step away, or you feel that that this is something that you need to call in somebody else, i.e., a demonologist or a priest or something like that. I think we've all had those investigations. For us, a majority of the time, the things that we're encountering, we don't feel are malicious, or demonic or threatening in any way. For us, we really go into these locations with that sense of respect for the location as well as the entities we're attempting to communicate with. And I think because of that, we get some interesting responses. I also think the fact that we're an all-female team tends to lead to some different responses than an all-male team or a co-ed team would get.
Right.
Right, certainly. I mean, there's got to be that varying degree of respect. I mean, if you go in there like a certain investigator that I'm not going to name and provoke the ghosts and poke and prod at them, of course you're going to get a negative result.
Mhm.
Who are you talking about here, Squirrel?
I think it might have been Robert.
Hey, I ain't provoking nothing. I can tell you that right now.
I know. I can tell you from experience. I'm not a paranormal investigator at all. I leave ghosts to do what they do.
Mhm.
When I was a child, though, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and when I was a child, me and a friend of mine actually snuck into the carriage house behind Franklin Castle. I don't know if you've ever heard of that place or been
I
there.
have, yeah, I've actually been there. I used to live right in Covington, Kentucky for a while,
Oh, okay.
so I'm
Okay.
familiar.
Gotcha. Well, we snuck into the carriage house back there, and we were playing around back there, and stuff started falling off of shelves, and lights started flickering, and we never
Oh, wow.
ran so fast in our lives. Now, my father, when he was a little boy, he actually went inside the castle because a member of our family way back when was a caretaker there,
Oh, cool.
and he said he's never experienced anything there. But I know what me and my friend experienced in the carriage house kind of left a mark on me.
Oh, I'm sure. It sounds like it. And again, everybody has those investigations where you really kind of stand up and take notice and say, okay, this is something we can't explain.
Right.
This is something that's extremely compelling. We are fortunate enough to capture that, and there's no way we can debunk it. There's a lot of things that have happened on some of our investigations where. Obviously, we'll go back and try to debunk and see if we can find a plausible explanation for it. And then there are those times where there's no debunking it. It's just outside the realm of possibility, and that's what we call the unexplained.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, I guess another question would be, out of all the places you've been to, like, do you have a favorite?
Well, currently my favorite one is here at the historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee. This is a location. It's a jail that was built in 1904. It was in operation as a jail until 2008. And my business partner, Miranda Young from Ghost Biker Explorations, she's also a paranormal investigator. We actually opened a museum and a paranormal research center here inside the jail last year. And it's quickly rising through the ranks as one of the most active locations I've ever been in. I'm actually sitting here right now, and it's not uncommon to hear footsteps upstairs, doors slamming, whistling is very common here. So it's a really unique place to be involved with. I'd say as far as the investigations that we've done across the country, the old Gilcrest County Jail in Trenton, Florida, was probably one of the most active that we had done. I've been there several times. And the first time was actually with Miranda from Ghost Biker. And we were the only two females on the property. And that night we were hearing voices, seeing shadow figures that were moving on command, REM pods going off, EDI boxes going off, K2s going off. So up until we became involved with the historic Scott County Jail here, I would have to give the nod to the old Gilcrest County Jail.
Wow, that's
Okay.
very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question here from Polos Rebel. It
Okay.
says, question, Dr. Chris, have you ever been to Helltown, Ohio?
I have not. No, I know about Helltown. I have not been there though.
Given the opportunity, would you ever go there?
Absolutely. Given the opportunity, I'd pretty much go anywhere. For a lot of what we do is really determined by logistics, obviously, because my sisters and I were in different parts of the country. And so it really is depending on work schedules and travel schedules and such. So we usually do probably, I'd say 4 to 5 what I would consider larger scale investigations throughout the year. And then, we'll have these little one-off investigations that Jenny and I'll go to, or Michelle and I'll go to. And so, but given the opportunity, I will absolutely go anywhere.
Yeah, that's kind of how we are too. Is just, I guess not anywhere because we will get scared. That's not
Halfway there, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and
Well,
turn
that's
this
I
not
will
even
down.
a
say
doubt.
that doesn't go for everyone on the team. I'll say that.
Well, yeah, I live probably 5 minutes from orphanage, so and I'm sure you've heard the stories of that and all that. I mean, we've been there quite a few times, but Yeah, I mean, it's just some things I can handle most things, but
Mhm.
you know, getting spooked like that and not knowing what is scaring you, that's yeah, I'm just kind of weaning
I
away
kind
from
of
that.
have like an interesting story about Gore Orphanage.
Okay.
It's when I was younger and I was going there and I was saying some wild shit, like some shit I shouldn't have been saying. I was younger at the time. But anyway, we park on the side and there's a clearing uh to my right hand side. And in this clearing you could see the moonlight, you know, it's shining down and everything like that.
Mhm.
And
Set
it
the
was
mood.
after I said everything, then all of a sudden that clearing just engulfed with darkness.
Wow.
And I'm just staring straight ahead. I see it, but now I'm staring straight ahead, just trying to like not look at it. And then it's coming to my side. I'm sitting on the passenger side of my buddy's truck, and it gets all the way up to the window.
Mhm.
And right now we're both just staring straight ahead, and all of a sudden
Jeez.
we hear a big boom, and it's so loud the truck shakes. He
Jeez.
turns on the truck and peels off. When we get back to his house, there's a dent in the
Are you
side of
serious?
his door in the truck.
Wow.
And that's
Okay,
what
that's compelling.
yeah, that's
I
what
would say
sparked my
so.
interest in everything. That's what
Okay.
really started my journey.
So
That
let me
might
tell
have
you
been a
where
rocket.
let me tell you where you went wrong. You,
Slandering is where
you
I went
didn't
wrong.
leave as soon as it showed up.
That's right. I would
You're
have left.
playing with stuff that you ought not have been playing with. At the
Yeah, it
time.
was terrifying and scary,
Mhm.
and all at the same time it was intriguing, but it was really scary, and especially when that kick happened or whatever it was happened and it shook the truck and we peeled off. That's what started everything for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long have y'all been investigating?
So probably I don't know, a few years. I mean, we don't do it like religiously. We don't do it all the time. It's just
Mhm.
every once in a while we'll someone ask us to do it, or we'll just get a spark to do someone's house, and we'll go do it. But yeah, quite a few years we've been on and off doing it.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
I
it's more
think
or
she
less for
needs to see
fun.
the picture of whatever is in Brian's house. I think we should throw that up there
Oh,
so she could
jeez.
see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be our
It's not
next.
a
Is
bad
my
idea.
brother's house. I'm not sure. Are you watching the live right now on Facebook at all?
I am not, but I can bring it back on. I think that's why I had the feedback. So I actually
Oh,
closed
okay.
it.
Oh yeah,
okay.
if you're on a computer, if you hit the mute
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the actual live,
Mhm.
that should
Yeah,
stop that.
that's what I have to do.
Yeah, I'm watching it now.
Yeah, he's gonna put a picture up. This is my brother's house. He lives like 2 seconds from me, and he sent us this picture from his house.
I
That,
actually
that
got it on the camera.
yeah, we were all gone, and he came home and seen, and so we put it up. But yeah, I don't want no part of that at all. I
You
mean,
might
I don't
have
know
to-
what it is.
You might have to resend it to me because I think I might have deleted it. I had like 12,000
yeah,
things downloaded.
I'll do that while you guys.
Alrighty. But what is that movie I'm thinking of? God dang it. It's the little girl that's under the table, like, or somewhere that's the Grudge.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
So when you get to see this picture, that was my first thought. So yep, that's the
Oh,
Grudge.
really? Wow. And now, has it ever like affected him at all? Excuse me, I've got allergies, so my voice is a little raspy. Has it ever affected him at all? Like, messed with
No.
him or physically assaulted him?
It never messed with me. No.
Wow.
And do you have anything that goes on though besides just like, because you said you've seen that on a security camera, but do you see it like actually in person? Does stuff happen in person?
Oh, you can see shadows, everything on a wall all the time.
Yeah, I've been there.
I mean,
and
the baby-
their Google Play would just go off and then say,
Yeah.
"I'm sorry, we didn't get that," and then like just weird stuff, and no one's even around it.
And like we put the baby to bed one night, and we saw a shadow on the wall. And the next thing you know, the baby started screaming as soon as we saw the shadow on the wall. And we came in here, she was just up screaming and crying. It was just crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, see, I'm not a fan of that. Like,
Yeah. And then one day we in the living room, and my daughter walked through the gate. Next thing you know, the gate flew off the wall and hit her in the back of the leg.
Jeez.
Yeah.
My friend
Yeah,
ought to
that's-
call a priest.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's definitely times when you need to do that.
yeah.
and that might be one of them.
This goes beyond Peter Venkman or Ray Stantz. You need to just go right to a priest.
All right, so I went ahead and threw it up there on the live, so it should be popping up any second now. But
Okay,
you know, at first glance, you probably won't see it right away. But if you look at the bottom left of the stove, and then just look up the littlest bit, you'll see the Grudge, basically.
Yeah.
Full screen here.
And they said this was from a security camera when nobody was home.
Mhm.
Yeah, I kept saying someone detected, and then
Wow.
that's what it showed.
Yeah, it looks like it definitely looks like the head and an eye, right? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Wow.
I figured it
Yeah.
looked like a little girl, personally.
Yeah, it almost looks like Raggedy Ann.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's yeah, he definitely has some stuff going on there. I think we're thinking about just doing it this weekend, going over there and doing a little investigation there, see what we can find. But
Well, I'm just letting you know ahead of time. If I see that thing in person, I'm burning the house down.
oh,
It's over.
oh
with.
yeah, I mean, I mean, you have no other choice at that point. Right, burn the house down.
It's just gonna walk out the door. We're like, hey guys.
So you gentlemen have fun. When you're ready to chase Bigfoot, then call me.
You know, this is right up my alley, though. This is shit that I dreamed to capture. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
this is
you-
perfect evidence right here.
And it's unexplainable. You know, I think that's every paranormal investigator's dream, is to capture something like that. And you know, the locations that we've gone to, most of our evidence is EVPs. And I think that, to me, is the truest form of paranormal evidence, if I can say that.
Yes.
Simply because it's very easy for me to say there are no men with us, or there are no children with us. And
Right.
so it's very easy to say this is unexplainable evidence. You know, sometimes with pictures or with video, you can explain it away if you really think, this could be a car light, or something like that. But EVPs, to me, are very difficult. And so I'd say, a lot of the locations that we've gone to, we've been able to capture some pretty good Class A EVPs.
Yeah. See, I just that right, like, we don't catch a lot. Like, we've caught a few things on camera, which I
Mhm.
mean could be explained by different things, but mostly, yeah, in many recordings where you'll hear something like a voice, and it's and there's no cars driving by, so it's not any of that. It's an actual, like, word that came out of someone's mouth, and it would be only me and my brother, so it's not. And it sounds like a little kid sometimes, or a girl, or I know it's not us. It might have been Robert when he got scared at one point.
It's possible.
It wasn't a. Yeah, I mean, it's fun, but then there's just them times that you get a little scared and a little spooked by it. But yeah, we haven't been in quite some time, and I definitely want to do it again. Definitely want to. We're planning on making a trip out to, like, Helltown and
cool.
doing this investigation at my brother's, and I mean, so we're definitely gonna get some more stuff going.
Oh, very
But
cool.
right now, our like main focus right now is just doing the podcast.
And that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because believe it or not, there are a lot of people who'd rather listen to somebody else's story than actually go out and make their own.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You do have that, especially now, true crime and paranormal investigations and ghost huntings and all of that. That's a they're very popular genres.
Oh yeah, and like I said before, if I could quote one of my favorite podcasters, Buckeye Bigfoot, there's always that absence of proof, or proof of absence. Oh shoot, how did it go? Absence of proof is not. That's what it was. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. It doesn't mean it isn't real.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've been to several locations where we just did not capture anything, not a whisper, not a light anomaly or anything like that. And it's not to say that location isn't haunted. These are not actors that will perform on command. And we've had instances where we'll get one or two EVPs, and to me, that's a very successful night. For us, it really is about going to these locations, and having a very tactile experience with the history of these locations, right?
Yes.
I've spent the night in the St. Augustine Lighthouse, the Lizzie Borden house, the Vallisca Axe Murder House, and not a lot of people can say that they've done that. And so to be able to have those experiences and then capture something that we can't explain, that's just kind of the icing on the cake. But to go to these locations that have this historical narrative and to be able to share that with our audience, that to us is really why we're doing this.
Right.
Yes, and I feel that completely.
Mhm.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about the Vallisca Murder House, because my wife is just entranced by this place.
Okay.
When you were there, did you experience anything at all, or does it just seem like just your average haunted house?
Well, no, we did experience some things that we could not explain. The first thing when you have to realize when you go to Vallisca, every television show has been to Vallisca, and they make it seem a little bit larger than it is. This is a very small house, really in the middle of town of Vallisca, which isn't a very small, it isn't a very big town in and of itself, but this house sits right in the middle of it. And so that you got to kind of wrap your head around that. There were 5 investigators with us that night, all female. And there was never a time when all 5 of us were in the house. That's just because it was so small and we didn't really want to contaminate it. So we went in as groups of 3 and 2. And but we had some very interesting things that we couldn't explain. There was one time when Kim and Cara were walking up the stairs from the first floor to the second floor, and the voice recorder that we had in the attic, we captured a man's voice saying, "Downstairs where the girls are sleeping," which is interesting because Ina and Ella Stillinger were sleeping downstairs when the murders occurred. That's where they were killed, in that downstairs bedroom.
Oh wow.
There was another instance where Jenny and Michelle were doing an EVP session in the room where the Moore children were killed. So there was 4 of them. They were killed in that room, and they had done the EVP session. And we've got a video camera on them that's stationary in that room. And then when they're done with the session, they stand up, and Michelle gets a very instantaneous headache. And so you see her grab her head, and she said, "I just got this bad headache." And so Jenny says, "Well, let's go downstairs. Let's get you some water." And as they're leaving the room, we captured a child's voice saying, "I didn't do that."
Oh
Which is
wow.
which again is very very interesting because it's almost like responding to the fact that he didn't give her the headache.
Yeah.
So we captured several EVPs. One of the most interesting things that we had happen there though was right outside the house. Excuse me. They've got a little garage, which is where your base camp is.
Hmm.
And so we were all sitting out there, and we have a couple K2 meters. And so one of us set it on the little ledge that's there, and we're just getting our drinks and stuff and having some snacks. And all of a sudden, the K2s start going off, and there's nobody within 6 or 7 feet of these K2s, and they just started going crazy. So we all turn around. I grab the video camera, and we start recording these things. And on command, one of our K2s is black and one is gray, and they were going to the black and gray on command. And so through those series of questions, we determined that we were speaking with Sarah Moore, who was the mother there at Vallisca, and she seemed to indicate that the spirit of the killer was still inside, which was a little
Oh
bit
wow.
fascinating to
Mm.
us. So even outside that house, we were getting some interesting evidence.
That is very interesting. Now, one thing
Yeah.
that has always kept me kind of away from paranormal investigating, I'm comfortable investigating cryptids, Bigfoot, Dogman, you name it. I don't
Hmm.
mind going out there. It's something material. It's something I can defend myself against.
Hmm.
One thing I've always been afraid of with paranormal investigations is attachments. Is that anything you've ever experienced or kind of shied away from yourself, or?
We've never experienced anything like that, and we've been to some of the most reportedly haunted locations in the country. The way we approach our investigations is we will go in and we'll say a prayer of protection before we go in and one when we come out, but we also set our intentions with the spirits when we go in. And by that I mean we say, we're not here to harm you, we're not here to provoke you, we're not here to get you to cross over, we're simply here to tell your story. And I think because of that, because we go in with that sense of respect, if you will, we essentially get that respect in return. And so if we feel that we're encountering something darker, we just kind of say, okay, this is your space. We recognize that this is your space. We're going to go to another room or go to another building on the property and investigate there and leave you to your space. And that's really how we handle it. And because of that, like I said, we've never experienced anything that I would consider malicious or demonic.
Gotcha.
So we
So
have
do you think that that's actually possible though? Even if you do like actually do all that, do you think it's like actually possible still?
To get an attachment?
Yes.
I do, but you know, for those, okay, so let me just backtrack just a minute. When we go into a location, I feel that we are going in to speak with people who had a human existence, right? They were born, they lived, they died. And for
Right.
some reason, they're staying in this location.
Right.
I don't, in my personal belief, I don't think a demon had a human existence. I think that it is the negative of the good and the bad of the world. And so we don't go in, again, we don't go in looking for that. I do believe it's possible to get an attachment, but in my experience, it's been those people that go in and say, you know, I'm not going to believe that you're here unless you slap me. Unless you throw this chair across the room, I'm not going to believe you're
Right.
here.
Right.
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 And so that's where I think attachments can come in. You know, like I said, for us, we give spirits, especially if we're trying to communicate with a child, we'll say, you can touch my hand, touch my pant leg, you know, give me a high five, but otherwise you're not allowed to touch us. And honestly, it's worked for us. You know, I can only speak from my personal experience, but you know, we've been to Vallisca, Lizzie, Borden, all these other quote unquote demonic locations or have something that's demonic in them, and we've never felt that.
Right.
So we have a question from Miranda Young. She wants to know what are three pieces of evidence that are your favorite from that you've captured.
Okay, thank you, Miranda. Miranda is actually my business partner here at the jail. I'd say the very first piece of evidence that I just absolutely love. We were at the Grand Old Lady Hotel in Balsam, North Carolina, and this was a hotel that was built in 1912 as part of the railroad system that went over the Smoky Mountains there in Balsam. And so when we investigated, it's a three-story hotel. It has about 100 guest rooms, a large ballroom. You know, it's very opulent. And when we were there, we had the entire hotel to ourselves for a weekend. And so it was just Miranda who asked the question, and my twin sister Jenny and I. So the three of us in this hotel from Friday afternoon to Sunday morning. And so Miranda did an investigation on Friday night, and Jenny and I did our investigation on Saturday night. And so we were coming up with some amazing things. I mean, we had a table overturned, we had a coffee pot turn on when we asked it to. Everything that we had was evidence of something going on. So that Saturday night, we all three decided to sleep in one of the larger suites on the third floor, which ran adjacent to a hallway called Henry's Hallway, which is reported to be the most haunted location in the building. And so the way the room is set up, there's a small interior room, and then there's an exterior room. So you've got, and that exterior room is the only door that goes into the hallway. So when you come from the hallway into the room, you got to go into that the exterior room to get into the interior room. So Jenny and I are in the interior room, and Miranda's in the exterior room, i.e., she's sleeping closest to the door in the hallway. And so we have a night vision video camera on the inside of the door and the outside of the door. So we have complete control of the environment. And so the door is closed, and you hear us say goodnight, and you see Miranda get into bed and turn the light off. And about 15 minutes later, there's a man's voice outside the door saying, "Please don't go." And it was so loud. And Miranda said, "Did y'all hear that?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "What is that?" And I said, "There's a man standing outside our door." And she's like, "Yeah, that's what I thought." And so that to me is my number one piece of evidence. I love that piece, that EVP clip. Another piece of evidence that we actually captured here at the historic Scott County Jail was a full body apparition on a photograph. We actually allow people to come in and do public investigations with Miranda and myself. And one of these ladies clicked 3 pictures in a row off of her cell phone, and captured our resident shadow figure. I mean, he's standing right there, clear as day. So I really enjoy that piece of evidence. And then the third one would be the shadow figure that we caught at Fort Mifflin, which is a Revolutionary War fort in Pennsylvania. We had a night vision video camera set up in one of the subterranean casemates. So we had that night vision video camera along with a laser grid in this casemate, which is probably about, I don't know, 20 feet long by 7 feet tall. It's not a very big room at all. And so we had this laser grid inside this room again, which is subterranean, so there's no light pollution at all. And the shadow figure walks out of the wall, cuts off all of the laser beams as it walks through, and then walks through the other wall. So I said those are my three pieces of evidence that I really enjoy.
So we just got two more questions in. One is
Okay.
the first one's from Janet.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to butcher names here, but it's either Janet or Jeanette. But, but she wants to know, what is one question that you wish you would get asked during interviews?
That's an interesting question. I think probably the one question that I don't get asked a lot is really how this has affected us as investigators. And to me, really, when we do these investigations, it has really strengthened my belief, one, that there is an afterlife, that when we die, we just don't cease to be. And that to me is very peaceful. It's comforting. And it also strengthens my religious belief as well. I'm a Christian. So to me, it really does strengthen the fact that, again, that there's something after this and we move on. However, there are spirits that are souls that are allowed to still communicate with us, whether it's to guide us or give us answers or just to tell their stories. I believe that they're allowed to do that. So not a lot of people ask that question on interviews like this.
Okay.
And we also have another question from Debbie Carter. And it says, what are your thoughts on using spirit boards?
For us, we typically don't use them. For me, we have things like, the spirit box and stuff, which obviously is electronic. But
Yes.
spirits boards, it's not so much that I'm against them because I know investigators that use them. But for me, it's the connotation behind a spirit board. I.e., most people see it as negative or demonic. And that's simply because of the reputation that it's garnered from social media. I don't really truly believe that, but I think the connotation behind it really leads us not to use it. And so for us, we don't use them in our investigation.
My issue with a Ouija board is this. When you're playing with a Ouija board and don't know what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
you open a gateway.
Exactly.
Anything can come through that gateway. And you have to be able to close that gateway when you're done.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people cannot do that. I was raised in a household where that was just not allowed in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend that had one, and he did something real stupid with it, and ended up with some kind of thing in his house.
Mm-hmm.
And you went in my house. I just had way too many bad experiences.
Exactly. And again, that's the reason why we really don't use it. It's just that negative connotation behind it. And I really don't think they're necessary. The amount of evidence that we've been able to capture without one, to me, it's just not necessary on investigations.
Yeah, I guess the question I have, and the only reason I'm asking this question is because, we, when we were doing more investigation stuff other than the podcast, so we have a movie theater close to where we live now, and it's very haunted. They've done documentaries on it and all that. So
Are you
I
talking
said, you know
about
what?
Lorraine Palace?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I figured, even though we're a small investigation team, I'll give it a chance, because you never know if I can get in there or not. So I emailed him, talked to the head guy, and he was like, yeah, you guys come on over, we'll do it. You guys can be here that night. And I said, all right, that's fine. Well, then they wanted to charge us $800 for us to go there,
Okay.
to do an investigation. So I guess my question: have you ever been charged to do an investigation anywhere?
Not really an investigation that we've asked or been asked to do. Now, some of these locations that we go to, like Brushy Mountain or Vallisca Axe Murder House, Lizzie Borden House, yes, they have a charge. And that's really, to me, a small price because one, it allows us to hone our techniques, and two,
Mhm.
it the money goes back into the preservation of these locations. And so that to
Right.
me, when I know that that's the outcome, I'm fine with paying that. So yeah, we've been to locations where you have to charge for sure, or where they
Okay.
charge you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Um.
I can totally get behind that. I mean, that's the same reason every year I buy a hunting or a fishing license, whether I use it or not, because it goes into preservation.
Exactly.
What am I looking at here in this picture?
Well, I just threw
Yeah.
up a picture. It's from Polos. He wanted to know if we can put this up for Dr. Sumner to see. He didn't give a reason why, but he does want you to take a look at this photo.
If we're looking at what looks to be the fog or the mist, is that what we're looking at, Polos?
And then
I love the picture though. I love that that gas tank.
he
He
says
said the
the.
green
The gas
eyes
tank.
on the window.
Let me see if I can get a zoom in on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it's a very interesting picture. But again, and I'll just be upfront, pictures are one of those things that I really need to know some context behind it. Was the person using the flash on this? Because for me, if I were to look at this picture not knowing any context, I would think that that was a flash off of the camera. And so, I really, when I look at photographs like this, some background behind it, it very well could be something there. But if I were just to look at this in the void of not knowing anything behind it, I would say a flash of the off the camera.
Absolutely.
And then we also have a question from a Joe King. He
Mhm.
says, "What is the best and most effective tool for communicating with spirits?"
Thanks for that question, Joe. For us, I really enjoy our voice recorders. As I said before, to me, EVPs are the purest form of paranormal evidence that I think is out there, because it's very hard for me to explain some of them. So our voice recorders is the one tool that we always have with us. As soon as we start the investigation, our voice recorders are recording. Absent that, I would say. I personally enjoy our spirit box. I know there's some controversy behind it, but we've gotten responses on our spirit box that to me are extremely compelling. If anybody in the audience does not know what a spirit box is, it's generally speaking, it's a small AM FM radio that's been modified to very quickly sweep through frequencies. So when you turn it on and you hit sweep, you get the like it's going through all these frequencies, and it goes through each of
Right.
them in about an eighth of a second. The idea is that the spirits can use the white noise to communicate with us, and we've had some very interesting answers in some of the question or in some of the locations that we've gone to. For example, my team was the very first team to investigate the Ma Barker house in Central Florida. And this was the site of the 1935 shootout between Ma and Fred Barker, two members of the Barker Carpus gang, and members of the FBI. And this house now sits vacant on about 40 acres of Florida soil. It's in the middle of nowhere. So, very hard for this small radio to pick up any radio station. So, when we turned it on, all we heard was the static. And when I asked the question, what happened in this room? We were in the room where Ma and Fred's body were found. When I asked the question, what happened in this room? We got the response, they murdered us. We the ones dead. That entire phrase came through the spirit box. Now, if you think that this thing is running an eighth of a second, we're getting a new frequency, you should not hear a full phrase, but yet we heard it. So for me, I really enjoy the spirit box. We also have K2 meters, EDI box, REM pods, and we've had varying success on those pieces of equipment as well.
Yeah, I actually have a spirit box, and I have not been able to use it yet, and I'm looking forward to it a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, and like I said, is a lot of people don't really subscribe to it, and that's absolutely fine, right? It doesn't have to be the go-to tool for everybody.
Right.
But for me, it is one of those things that when you start getting words or phrases coming through that are germane to the situation that you're in or the location that you're in, that to me is extremely compelling. There's no radio station in my mind that would have said they murdered us, we the ones dead. That exact moment, I'm asking what happened in this room at the Ma Barker house.
Right.
So I have a
Yeah,
question.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, it's from
go ahead,
myself. Okay, I have a question. It's from myself.
Okay.
So when you're doing these investigations and stuff, I mean, I know a lot of these TV shows are pretty fabricated and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but they don't really show the reality of it, of the fact of how long they're actually there.
Yeah.
You know, some people they'll go there, from dusk till dawn, and they don't get anything. And then
Mhm.
these shows are, that airs for a half hour to an hour long,
Mhm.
gets like, 30 pieces of evidence,
Mhm.
in reality, in for that hour long episode, they were there for,
A week.
12 hours. Yeah, or yeah, a
A
week.
week. Yeah.
And
Yeah. So, like for example, I know that Taps, excuse me, when they would do their episodes, they would actually be at a location for a week. So, i.e., they had to wear the same clothes for continuity purposes and all of that, and they condensed that into an hour show. And sensationalism, I understand it. You have to build your audience base. I understand that. But to your question, the way we conduct our investigations is the very first thing that we'll do is when we get to the location, we'll get there a day before and we'll take a day tour of the location and really scout out those things that we feel that environmentally could affect somebody's belief that something paranormal is going on. So, i.e., we look for streetlights, we look for noise traffic, we look for train tracks, airline traffic. Is there any airplanes going overhead? So we look for all of these things that when we're in our investigation, if we hear them, we can rule them out or see them. We rule them out as environmental factors, i.e., they're nothing paranormal. So we do that first, and then we take notes on where we want to leave our stationary equipment, and then we'll go in the night of the investigation. We'll set up all of our stationary equipment. We'll leave night vision video cameras in certain rooms or buildings, and then we'll leave voice recorders in certain rooms or buildings and set up all of that. And then we'll conduct the investigation with our handheld equipment, i.e., the spirit box or the REM pod or whatever. Um, and then we'll collect all of that. Now, sometimes we're in these locations anywhere from 8 hours to 24 hours, and we've got equipment running that entire time. So when we're done with that, if I've got 10 voice recorders running for 10 hours, then I sit down and listen to 100 hours of audio. And so that's kind of how we conduct our investigation and our evidence review. But we want to make sure first that we can really account for anything environmental before we go in and do our investigation.
okay, and I'm also curious too. When you go to certain places, do you think like water in general, like streams, creeks, rivers,
Mhm.
does that have effect on activity? Because I've heard a lot of reports of water in general. It's like spirits can't cross over water.
Mhm.
Do you think
And it,
that's yeah?
I do think water is a good conductor of energy. So, for example, the jail that I'm in right now, the historic Scott County Jail, one, it's made of sandstone. The entire thing is sandstone, and directly behind us, less than 40 feet behind the jail, there's a river. And obviously, it's constantly running. And so, we do think that that is a good conduit for spirit activity, both the sandstone and the water. So, I do believe that water, if in proximity to water, it could have the potential to allow you to have some different energy.
Okay, I've always wondered about that. If it's true or not. 'Cause I've heard a lot of people say it and a lot
Mhm.
of reports on it, but I just never really thought too much in it.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's one of the things we look at as well. The geography of the area, really what it looks like, what the building itself is made out of. Again, for us here at the jail, we do believe that sandstone, because it has a lot of quartz in it, it's a natural conductor of energy as well. And that's why we believe that this jail is pretty haunted, right? One, because of the water, because of the sandstone. We are also in a location that had a lot of Native American influence as well. Here in East Tennessee. And so I think that's another factor that you really have to look into when you go to these locations. And that's another reason why we do, excuse me, we do a lot of background research before we go to these locations as well.
Now, have you ever been to a place that's more or less like not reportedly haunted or with reported activity going on? Like you just seen, an abandoned farmhouse or something, or anything like that, and just say, you know what, let's go there and check this out. Because
We have done a couple of those. For us, we really want to be above board and we don't condone trespassing. So if we see something like that, we will try to contact the owners. And most times when we find them, they're all about it. And they're like, sure, go ahead, knock yourself out. Just tell us what you found. So we have had those type of investigations. Yes, absolutely.
And do you usually get anything out of those investigations, or is it just
We,
more or less a waste of time?
for us, none of these investigations are a waste of time. One, it allows us to really hone our technique and use different techniques and try different things. And again, really delve into the history of a location. Now, that being said, we have locations where, to your point, we don't get anything. We're literally sitting there for 6 or 7 hours talking into the dark, and we don't get an EVP. We don't get, a light anomaly, nothing like that. But in our minds, it's just what it does is it validates those times when we do get something. It lets us know that our equipment just isn't going off willy nilly just because we're asking it to, if that makes
I
sense.
like that. Night. It makes perfect sense, and I like that.
I mean, it's all really about trial and error, and those, when you go somewhere you can't figure something out, so be it. Next time you know what to do. It's just.
Mhm.
And Janet also wants to know, what do you recommend for those just starting out investigating? Are there any starter tools that you recommend?
Well, when you first start out as an investigator, my first recommendation would be one, to go in with the right intentions and really go in with the mindset of respecting the location as well as respecting the spirits. For me, this is not something that you go into to get a spook or a jump scare on a Friday night. You really have to go in with the right intentions. And I say for starting out for equipment wise, I would recommend a K2 meter, a voice recorder for sure. Always have a voice recorder running, and then find locations that have a story, that have a legend or a lore, like a cemetery or a house that you can get access to, and just sit down and ask questions. And then, you got to have patience for this. As I said before, every question that you ask is not going to get an answer. If you get 3 or 4 EVPs in a night, that's a great night. If you get one unexplainable EVP in a night, to me, that's a great night because you can't explain it. So you have to have a lot of patience with this as well.
And I think that's a lot of the issues with like people just starting out is, they go to these locations and asking questions and they don't get anything. So they automatically think, okay, nothing here. Let's go to the next, and yeah, like you said, you have to have some type of patience to be able to sit there for hours or days, in these places. And then, yeah, I mean, patience to be able to find something, it's not going to happen just like that. And maybe it can, but most of the time it's not going to happen right away. You asking questions. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have to have patience when you're going through your evidence review as well. As I said before, the way we really conduct our review is we sit down and listen to every piece of audio that we captured, and we watch every piece of video that we captured. And for me, I don't run it through any software or editing software at all because I want to listen to it as it was recorded. Because I think the software really, you can lose things, right? So there will be times where we've gone to a location and I'll think we left the location, it was a great experience being there, but we didn't capture anything, right? We didn't hear anything, we didn't see anything. And then you start listening to the audio and it's unbelievable what you can capture. That you just don't know that was recorded on a voice recorder that was stationary, or a question that you asked that you didn't hear the voice in the moment, but you hear the voice recorder captured it. So those,
Right.
to me, I mean, evidence review can be boring, but when you find or you hear that one EVP or you see that one light anomaly, that's really what keeps me going.
I understand that could be boring at times,
Mhm.
but at the same time, when you're so excited to find something,
Mhm.
even though it's like a lot of hours, I can see how like you're really tuned into it because that's how I feel like I would be if I'm sitting here staring at something for so long. Then once you finally catch something, it's
Mhm.
exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And for example, we were at the Lizzie Borden house, and as I said before, as soon as we crossed the threshold, we've got our voice recorders running, and so there were 5 of us on this investigation. 3 of us were upstairs, and we're still. I mean, we're just bringing our luggage in from the parking lot, but we all have our voice recorders going, and so Jenny and Cara were sitting in the parlor area where Andrew Borden's body was found there in 1892. And so they're just talking about the differences between the Vallisca axe murder house, which we had investigated prior, and the Lizzie Borden house. And Cara makes the comment. She said, either way, being axed to death would be a horrible way to die. And we captured a man's voice saying it was. And
Holy shit.
yeah, they never heard it in the moment, but it is clear as day on the voice recorder. And so that's why, again, that's why I listen to all of it, because if you run that through, a software, it may not pick that up. But to me, hearing that or seeing that anomaly or something that we can't explain, to your point, that's really what keeps me going.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I guess another question would be: have you ever gotten, being a believing in spirits and paranormal and all that? Have you ever got any like weird looks or people, with their negative comments about the whole situation that that
Mhm.
the
Oh,
people that don't believe?
excuse me, absolutely. So when you tell somebody that you're a paranormal investigator, they either look at you like you have 3 heads or they want to tell you their ghost story. So for the most part, most people want to tell me their ghost story.
Right.
It's like, oh my gosh, my aunt had this experience one time where she saw my grandma, da 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 da. But then you do have the skeptics. And to me, my answer is that is absolutely fine. If this is something that you don't believe in, that is absolutely fine. I am not trying to convince you of
Right.
anything.
Right.
The way we conduct our investigations and the documentaries that we put out, what we're trying to do is show you a very interesting location from a historical perspective that you may not have known, i.e., facts and figures or historical context or historical narrative that you may not have known about that location. We tell you how we conducted the investigation and what we feel is compelling, unexplainable evidence. And if you don't want to believe that, that is absolutely fine. Watch it for the history, watch it for the paranormal. That's fine as well. But I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. We're just putting out things that in the moment we could not explain.
Right.
Right.
Oh. Well, I mean, I've always had an open mind about pretty much anything.
Mhm.
You can't tell me something does not exist unless you come at me with, like hard evidence saying that this does not exist.
Mhm.
And, like that's why I believe in a lot of things that a lot of people don't. Bigfoot, aliens, UFOs, spirits,
Mhm.
Absolutely.
and there's been countless of times where I've had my own paranormal experience. None of them seem to be the best experience, but it's one of those things where it's like I had the experience, so you can't tell me that I'm wrong in believing in it.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. And like I said, these are things that we couldn't explain in the moment. Now, if somebody wants to come back and say, I think it could have been this, then I want to have a dialogue because I don't want to put out anything that would be contradictory to being unexplainable, right? But for all of the videos that we put out there, I really haven't had anybody come and say, did you consider this? Again, because they see how we conduct our investigations, and we really go in with that healthy skepticism on every investigation that we do. We try to debunk these things. If we, for example, we had a picture come off the wall here at the historic Scott County Jail. And so Miranda and I and the team that was here the night before, we tried for 45 minutes, an hour, to try to replicate that movement of that picture, and we just couldn't get it to happen. So there's a lot of things like that, again, that we try to debunk first. And that way, when we say this is unexplainable to us, it legitimately is unexplainable.
Right.
So we got another question from Debbie. Well, it's not more or less a question. She wants to know if you can touch base a little bit on the differences between intelligent and residual spirits. Yes.
So for the difference between it and the way I will explain it is an intelligent spirit or spirit activity is something that intelligently responds to you. So when I ask a question in the Ma Barker house, who is here with us, and we get the name Freddie, that to me is an intelligent response. It heard the question and it answered intelligently with an intelligent answer. So it has the recognition that we are there, and it has enough energy to respond to us, whether it be with a voice or a light anomaly or touching the REM pod when we ask it to, or something like that. That to us is intelligent. A residual activity is something that, the way I explain it, is essentially it's a blip in time. So if you have say you have a record and it's on the record player and it's spinning, and and there's a scratch on that record, every time it hits the needle, it's going to blip. And so that's how I explain a residual haunting. It's basically a blip in time. For example, when we were at the Ma Barker house, the way we conducted that investigation, it was a 2-part investigation. And the first part of that investigation, I wanted it to be on the anniversary of the shootout. So the shootout happened January 16th, on the morning of January 16th, 1935. So what we did is we put equipment in the house on January 15th and let it run through the night into the morning of the 16th, which would have been the 83rd anniversary of the shootout. And my hope was that something residual would happen in the house. And so we left that equipment, we locked the house, and we left for the night and just let everything run on its own. And when we went through that audio, what we captured was in the room where Ma and Fred were killed at about 5:30 in the morning on the 16th, which is when the anniversary of the shootout would have started. We captured 2 voices. The first one said Freddie, the next one said, yeah, Ma. And the first one said, get ready. To me, that's residual. I think they actually said that 84 years ago or 83 years ago. And that's what happened before the shootout actually took place.
Yeah,
So
it's like replaying.
Exactly. That's
Wow,
residual.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was the Ma Barker house is such a great location.
I would love to investigate there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Hey, Stevie, on a side note, did you see Ashley's comment?
I did.
I think we need to take her up on that.
I love how
Yeah.
she left me out of it. Thank you for
I know.
leaving me right out of that one. And Joe also wants to know how does he start his own local ghost hunting group?
You know, Joe, I would actually, and that's a great question. Like I said, I would grab a couple voice recorders. If you have some friends or relatives that are interested in this as well, grab them and just go to a location that it has a reported haunting or a reported legend or lore, like a cemetery or, a library or something like that, and sit and ask questions with that group of people. As you start to do this more, you'll start to get different feelings, different things that you'll hear, like on the voice recorder or a K2 meter if you choose to add that to your equipment package, and really just start out that way. And then once you really start immersing yourself in the paranormal community, you start to hear of other locations. You start to network with other paranormal teams or other paranormal groups, or even location owners that will say, hey, come investigate this location. And you really start to build your resume or your portfolio that way.
I never really thought about it that way. I just pretty much grabbed a couple buddies and said, hey, let's go ghost hunting.
And you can do that too. There's no right or wrong answer to it. When my sisters and I started this, as I said before, it was that first trip to Moundsville. And it was just something that we felt was unique. It was something that we felt we could do as essentially a sister group bonding experience, if you will. And so we wanted to kind of take it to a different level. We wanted to be taken seriously. And by that, I mean, we wanted to look professional because when you really talk about this, we're still a subgroup, right? We're still a subculture. Even though there's television shows and movies out there about paranormal investigations, it's still considered a subculture. So what we wanted to do was kind of elevate that as best we could and really put forth a more professional front. So when we go to these locations, you know, we have our names embroidered on our shirts and our team and all of that. And, you know, that was just our nod to the professionalism in the paranormal community. And so that's what we wanted to do. But, you know, if you just want to grab some buddies and go to a location on a Friday or Saturday night, as long as you're doing it with that sense of respect and reverence for the location and the history, that's absolutely great.
And Janet brought up a good point too, for Joe about starting his own group.
Mhm.
You know, she says if you don't have any family or friends who want to do it, check on Facebook because there are some local groups that you may find, you know, looking for people.
Yeah, and that's a great tip. Or if you put out there, you know, if you make a post and say, "I'd like to do this," who's in? There you go.
Right, and even so, like you were saying before, locking up the house and just walking away for a day, and you got all that great material there. You know, the few times that I've actually run into Bigfoot, I wasn't looking for Bigfoot.
Hmm.
The one time was right there in Round County, Kentucky. I was watching television with my grandfather, and
Cool.
some rocks hit the trailer. We went outside to check it out, and lo and behold, there it is.
Wow,
Scared the
that's
living
awesome.
daylights out of me.
Aw.
And the second time, me and Robert were actually squirrel hunting here in Ohio.
Mhm.
We were squirrel hunting, and we just happened to run across two of them across the river from us.
Wow, that's awesome. And to your point, you're absolutely right. You know, there are times here at the historic Scott County Jail where Miranda and I'll be sitting, and you know, we'll hear a door slam upstairs or footsteps running or whistling behind us. It's not that we're looking for it, but it's here. We know it's here, and we're absolutely comfortable with that. But you know, like I said, the Mom Barker house, that was really an experiment that I wanted to try, and it just that was a location that it was a great experiment to use there because the owners of the house, it's actually Marion County, Florida, who owns the house. They really gave me full permission to do whatever I wanted to do there, and that was something that I wanted to try.
Right, and that's absolutely a good way to go about it. I mean, look at all the nature shows.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of them shows you see on Discovery Channel or Animal Planet, they put the camera down and they go away,
Hmm.
and they just let the animals do what the animals do.
Yeah.
It's like a natural setting
Hmm.
instead of mucking it up with their scent and their presence because they know you're there.
Hmm.
You know, they just let them act naturally, and that's the end result. Some of the best materials done that way.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And that's just crazy to think about in general. It's like because you would think, you know, they got this evidence or the material, and they should have been there with the, you know, evidence or whatever, you know, actually taking the video or the photo, but they just leave their equipment and that's it.
Hmm.
To me, that's just crazy in general.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the stuff that we do, like I said before, we leave night vision video cameras and voice recorders in the different rooms or locations that we're in. So we've got 10 night vision video cameras and we've got 10 voice recorders. And for me, some of the stuff that we've captured has been in locations or rooms or buildings that we weren't in at the time. For example, we investigated Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary in Petra, excuse me, in Petros, Tennessee. And this was a maximum security prison from 1896 until 2009, and it has multiple buildings. And so we put up voice recorders and stationary night vision video cameras in all of those buildings. But even though we weren't in a particular building, we were capturing things on that stationary equipment. For example, there was one cell block where we had the camera and voice recorder running, and throughout the night, these rocks just started being thrown at the stationary camera. We weren't there. Nobody else was on the property but us, but yet you've got these rocks being thrown at the stationary camera. And so that tends to happen a lot in these locations that we go to. We capture things when we're not even in the room.
Interesting. Now, was this camera indoors or outdoors? Like, was it a building with like a wall that fell down or something, or
No. This was actually in a cell block
in
at
a
Brushy
cell
Mountain
block?
State. So
Okay,
it's a large 2-story cell block.
I see.
Yeah, so it was indoors.
Wow, that's very because if it was outdoors, I know we're talking about ghosts here and not cryptids,
Mhm.
but I mean that's if it was outdoors, I could say okay, maybe you had some Sasquatch activity or
Mhm.
something of that nature because that's something that is done a lot of times with those encounters is you get
Yeah.
warning shots of rocks.
Hmm.
And I know some of the outdoor paranormal investigators that I've watched, some of the material that I've watched like on YouTube,
Hmm.
um, where they're having rocks thrown at them or trees are shaking or whatever. A lot of that, it looks more to me like Sasquatch activity than ghosts.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And I would have thought that as well, but this was inside a cell block.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one.
Now, my mother wants to know: has anything tried to harm you or anybody else in your team while doing investigations?
Well, thank you for that question. And no, we've never tried. I mean, we've never been harmed or physically assaulted. Honestly, I'm more scared of the living in these situations than I am the dead.
Yeah,
There
I completely
and
agree.
some of these locations that we go to, they're not in the best locations. When we investigated the Gilcrest County Jail in Trenton, Florida, which is about an hour's west of Gainesville, Florida, we had our pistols on us at all times during that investigation, just because of the area that we were in. But as far as a spirit attachment or a malicious spirit or activity, that we've never experienced that. We've never been assaulted or harmed in any way by a spirit.
Okay. And for everyone listening, they would probably like to know more, like all the new listeners. Tell them a little bit about yourself if you could.
Sure, absolutely. Soul Sisters Paranormal is a group that's made up of my sister, my twin sister, our younger sister, and 2 female family friends. And you can find us at www.soulsistersparanormal.com. We're also very active on Facebook under Soul Sisters Paranormal. And we also have a YouTube channel under Soul Sisters Paranormal. So anything you want to know about us, all of our videos, all of our investigations can be found there. And then I'm also the co-owner of the historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee. And if you want any information on that, you can go to www.historicscottcojail.com or on Facebook under Historic Scott County Jail.
Awesome. And Joe King is back with another question. He wants to know: is it possible to have an entity follow you away from the site?
Thanks, Joe. That's a great question. For us, I do think it's possible. In my belief system, I do think it's possible. For us, we've never had that attachment or anything follow us home like that. To me, I think those people that go in with a sense of provoking or a sense of essentially entitlement to be in these locations and communicate with these spirits, I think those are the ones that are more prevalent to getting something to go home with them or attaching to them. But for us, we go in with the intention of really telling the story of the spirits that we're trying to communicate with. And that's what we say up front. We're here to tell your story. And I think because of that, our investigation style and structure, we've never had anything follow us home.
Okay, and we have another question from Debbie. It
Mhm.
says, "Have you ever investigated anywhere in Ohio?"
Yep, we were in Poasttown Elementary, which is in Poasttown, Ohio. We've been there. Prospect Place in Trenway, Ohio. We've been there as well. That was a great location. Let's see. I think I've been. No, those are the only 2 locations in Ohio that we've been to.
Okay.
this is definitely eye opening.
And
Yeah.
Janet is back with another question. She wants to know if there's any places you'd like to visit in the future, like a
Mhm.
paranormal bucket list.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would internationally, I would love to go to Leap Castle in Ireland. I just think that would just be the top on my bucket list. I'd also like to go to the Monte Cristo plantation in Australia. I've been as a tourist, but not as a paranormal investigator. So I'd like to get back there. And I'm sorry for my voice. And then I'd like to get out to the Queen Mary out in California. There's just a whole host of locations that I would like to get to. And they don't even have to be big locations, right? Just small towns that have a lore or a legend. We like to investigate those as well. Small towns, across the country or even internationally. So there's always places on our bucket list for sure.
So you said the Leap Castle in Ireland.
Hmm.
So I assume you know a little bit about that. I don't know what that is.
Hmm.
Uh, what is that?
Yeah, it's a castle that has a longevity. It was during some of the wars there in Ireland. They've had the Ireland. I can't even think about it now. Or can't even think of my words. Sorry. They've had some wars where it has switched back and forth between the Irish and the English. So there's reports of a phantom Irishman that is said to protect the castle. Obviously, there's the Lady in White. That's another story that's said to be there as well. Um, the thing about Ireland and Europe in general is they just have a different longevity, obviously, historically speaking, than we do. And
Right.
while I love American history, there's just so much in Europe that from the 1600s, 1700s, all these battles and stuff that were fought in castles and such, that just have a different historical background. And that's why Leap Castle intrigues me so much, because it was one of those locations where wars were fought and it switched hands and families. So it just has this very unique backstory.
It would
That's
be
one.
awesome to go to.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the type of locations I'd like to get to, but really any place that has an interesting story or legend, that's we're all about it.
Have you ever been to or done an investigation in Salem?
I've been to Salem. I have not conducted an investigation there.
Okay.
Yeah,
I feel like that would be amazing.
it would be.
Yeah.
It would be. Like I said, if I could spend all day every day doing investigations, absolutely. But it's just really the travel logistics, and then also going through all of the footage, right? It usually takes us about a month from an investigation to actually getting the documentary out about that location, because we have to go through everything, and then we provide the historical background of the location. So there's all of the historical research that goes into it as well. So that's another factor to consider when
Right.
when we're doing this.
Right. Absolutely. And there's a lot that goes into those presentations.
Hmm.
Oh, there is.
So I recently did a ancestry DNA test,
Oh, cool.
and I found out that I am 70% Scottish, I guess.
Oh, cool.
So, with that being said, I would love to go to Scotland, and
Hmm.
I'm about to do research about all that and see like all of the paranormal investigation shit over there.
Edinburgh.
Oh,
Look up
yeah.
Edinburgh Castle.
What is it?
Edinburgh
Edinburgh.
Castle. Hmm.
Oh, okay.
That's actually one of the most haunted places in Scotland, from what I
Hmm.
understand. I've always wanted to see it just to see it, not necessarily do a paranormal investigation there. It's like in Romania. I've always wanted to see Hunyadora Castle. Hunyadora is it's a castle. Everybody says it's Dracula's castle, but it's not Dracula's castle. That is a castle where Vlad the Impaler was imprisoned for a while. But I've
Yeah.
always wanted to see it just to see it. Now there
Yeah, that'd
have
be a
been
cool place.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say that'd be a cool place to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there have been paranormal investigations done there before, and a lot of them come up with very, very good, footage. But it's just not in my nature to go over there and stir the pot.
Right.
So I think we got time for one more question, and it's
Mhm.
from Debbie.
Okay.
She says, "Have you ever been in contact with a spirit that posed as something other than what it really was, like something demonic coming to you as a child to mess with you?"
And thank you for the question, Debbie. In our experience and the investigations that we've done, no. The responses that we've received from the spirits that we're communicating with, they seem to be from that legitimate entity or that legitimate spirit. Uh, Never in any of our investigations have we felt anything malicious or demonic. And it's just one of those things that we have not encountered. Is it possible? Yes, but something that we have not encountered.
Okay, Dr. Summer, I have one more thing to say to you before you go.
Mhm.
If you ever have room for someone to tag along and help with the investigation, I will pay for the plane ticket. I will pay for the lodging. I will pay for everything. Just let me know and I will be there.
You guys are in Ohio?
Yeah, I'm in Ohio. Yeah, we're all
Okay.
in Ohio.
All right. Well, let me say this. Next time we come to Ohio, you can absolutely be our guest on any investigation that you'd like to jump on.
All right, and I will help in any way I can. I have a little bit of equipment and I would love to join.
Okay, that sounds great. You are absolutely invited, all of you.
I appreciate that. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
I'll be
Sure.
there, but I promise you, I'm just gonna not gonna have. I'm gonna have fun, but it's not gonna be the funny thing.
I'll go, but I might be the first one out.
Brian's
I'll
gonna
be the
walk in and
first
turn
one
right
out.
back
I'll
around.
take one for the team. I'll be the first one out. I'll go in rooms by myself. I'll do all that.
Okay.
I'll give you guys warm thoughts from at home.
No, you're going too.
Moral support.
Moral support. That's right. All right. Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today. Dr. Sumner, I'd like to thank you for being on the show today. It's been very eye-opening.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has been the Bearded Brothers podcast with your host, Squirrel. We have
You're breaking up pretty bad.
Brian,
Yeah, he is.
and Robert. And again, thank you, Dr. Sumner. Everyone have
Well, I think what he was saying is everyone have a good night. Thank you guys for coming on, listening to us, and thank you again for coming on our show and talking to us, and had a blast. We definitely should do it again sometime.
absolutely.
No
That's
doubt.
exactly what I was trying to say.
All right, guys. Well, have a good night.
You too, buddy.
Absolutely. Everyone take care now.